What up YouTube, Geargia here, giving you a deck profile, first one in like 10 years or something, of my Geargia deck, MGK deck that I recently got first place at a recent REDU event. So my Edison locals, which has been going pretty strong, recently decided to do a REDU tourney, and me and my friend, we were really excited for this event. We were testing a lot, like 2 to 3 months in advance, and I was really determined to win. I was trying all the matchups, refining the deck as much as I could, testing out everything, and yeah, I did manage to come away with the win. And basically just wanted to do this deck profile just to, share everything that I've learned along the way to fellow Geargia players out there, you know what I'm saying? Like, the Geargia Brotherhood, something I've been a part of since the deck came out, so yeah, I just want to basically, hopefully inspire other people to pick up the deck, or maybe make some changes based on some things that I've learned. And yeah, we'll get straight into it. So, triple armor, triple arsenal, triple accelerator. Don't need to explain anything there. And then I did play the one Geargia Rhino. So originally I was playing the MK2. I did find it was too bricky early game. It was like, it felt good when you could like mid to late game search it off Gigan, and then it was like a one card play. But I'm playing multiple gear frames in this build, and I feel like being able to search gear frame mid to late game, which gets you into cannon, into fortress, is sort of just as good, if not better, than searching the MK2. And the MK2 was kind of bricky. But this card is really important. It makes Gigan a way better card. Like, if you're unable to access your Karakuri like engine, or even your Marketer engine, it's like, this card just makes Gigan infinitely better. Like, this card, you can literally just play the pure version of the deck as long as you have this card in there, and that's like pretty good. Like, the amount of times I just recycled Gigan is just like ridiculous. Yeah, I did try both the MK2 and this card, but yeah, as I said, MK2 is just too bricky early game. This card's not as bricky as you think, because even if you open it early game, like, it's sort of, it takes your normal summon, but it sort of becomes any Geargia that you want. Like, there were a couple times where I opened like this and like double accelerator, but you can still go off and make like double Gigant with that. And also the fact that it brings back any machine. Like, you can bring back Watchdog and Strategist with this card. Yeah, this card's definitely like necessary, but I don't think the MK2 was. It just wasn't good enough in testing. And then for the Marketers, 3 gear frame, 2 fortress, 1 cannon. So originally, when I was playing the deck, I was playing just the 1 gear frame and fortress, but I just wanted more starters, and I was playing stuff like, I tried everything. I tried Card Ds, I tried Thunder Kings, I even tried Giant Rat at one point. But the reason I preferred this, like, the fact that this is a level 4 machine is honestly so important, because if you don't have access to armor, like, even just 2 gear frames is enough to get you to your Gigant, and as long as you get to Gigant, you're fine, because that gets your whole deck going. So yeah, like this and Accelerator, you get hands of like this and Accelerator, or this and Watchdog or something, but it's fine, because you can make a Gigant with that, where you can't with like the other cards. And also, like, because you're not playing the MK2, being able to search this mid to late game and just get Cannon and Fortress is like insanely broken. So yeah, like, you want as many starters as possible. This basically gives you 9, like this, and the armor and arsenal. So yeah, out of everything. Oh, also the reason I like this better than Thunder King is because if you already do have access to armor, Thunder King, you don't want to ever like, your Thunder King's sort of dead in your hand the whole game, because you never want to summon your Thunder King next to your armor. Whereas if you have this, it's fine. If you don't have armor, it's good, and if you do have armor, it's good, because you can summon this next to it and like, it doesn't make a difference. So yeah, it doesn't conflict at all. It's amazing. I wouldn't change this. For the tuners, I played 2 Watchdog, 1 Strategist. I did not play Birdman. So in testing, I found that out of all the tuners, Birdman was by far the brickiest. The problem with the Birdman that I really didn't like was, because I was playing, like, when you play these 3 and Birdman, it's just too many tuners. It's too bricky. And when I tried just 1 and 1 and Birdman, I really didn't like how you could only basically do the OTK if you opened the Birdman instead of these. If you drew one of these, like, you could have a good board, but it wasn't the OTK, and I just wanted to not worry about that. I just wanted to be able to ODK no matter which one I drew. And again, much like the gear frame, what I found, the fact that Watchdog is a level 4 machine is also really important, because it makes it not as bricky as you would think, because again, like this in gear frame or this in accelerator, gets your entire deck going, because you can make Gigant really easily. Yeah, so Birdman, I feel like didn't do enough by itself either. People like the Birdman because you can bounce your gear frame and like get another search, but I didn't think that was relevant enough, because if you're putting it in, like if you put in a second Watchdog instead, this and gear frame is like, I think better than Birdman and gear frame, because you can make, like, it just gives you better plays. You can make an 8 synchro, or you can make a Gigant. Yeah, the Birdman was definitely the worst out of the tuners I found. I understand why people run it, and it definitely feels broken, like, when you use it, but I just didn't think it was good enough. This made it, yeah. You can OTK, it doesn't matter which one you draw. I do side one of these out a lot, game 2 and 3, if I'm going second, because going second, your game plan, like, relies less on the OTK. It sort of relies more on, like, in your early game, you have to be able to, like, break your opponent's board and then establish your own. That's the most important thing. And this does basically nothing, like, in achieving either of those goals. So, yeah, but for game 1 and for going first, like, I think it's too broken. Yeah. I know you can search Birdman with Gigant, and that can feel pretty good, but I feel like you have to have a pretty specific field for that to be relevant anyway, and your field has to be already good. So it's like, it didn't matter. Yeah, I did try it a lot with the Birdman, but once I tried it like this one felt way more correct. And then to finish off the monsters, I played 2 Veiler, and the 2 Veilers allowed me to play 1 Gauze. So I played this over Fiendish Chain for a couple of reasons. This card is so freaking broken. Like, being able to play this card is just like, I think, reason enough alone to play this over Fiendish. I actually would, like, I'd play this over Fiendish anyway, just because the deck can struggle sometimes going second, and this obviously helps out a lot going second. But the main reason I really liked Veiler was that it's a trap card which can't be MST'd or heavied. So there's a lot of the times where, like, if you go first and you set your armor, like, if you have one of these, you don't necessarily need to play in a heavy. Like, say if you just have 1 trap, like 1 trap and a Veiler is good enough. You can just set the 1 back row a lot of the time, depending on the matchup. And a lot of the time, your opponent is so desperate to kill your armor that if they have heavy, they will heavy your 1 back row, like, because they need to. And then you hit them with this, and most of the time they can't get over your armor through this, because, like, the most common sort of, like, 1 card ways or 1 monster card ways to get over armor is stuff like Tour Guide and Rabbit, and this obviously stops that. But you know, you'll set 2 with this card a lot anyway, because it's still pretty good. It's just, it's a trap card that your opponent just, it's very hard to see it coming. And the Fiendish Chain I know is good because it can stop attacks, but I feel like with the other stuff, like, the most common things are hitting Tour Guide and Insector, Rabbit, like, the attack wasn't as relevant because they're not getting over your armor anyway. Yeah, and going second, it helps a lot. Also, like, stuff like being able to synchro with a Fortress or with your Gauze token, or I also play Mind Control. If you have Mind Control on this card, you can play freely into their Gauze, because you can always just Mind Control their Gauze and synchro with it. I did try out Fiendish Chain. I like this a lot better. I really wanted to play Max C as well, just because Max C feels so broken when you use it. But Max C was just too bricky. Like, I think you have to limit the amount of hand traps you can play in this deck. And in testing, I found this card was just much better, much more relevant. I'd probably play a 3rd Veiler before I put in a Max C. But yeah, and the fact that it lets you play Gauze without the Fiendish is so broken. Gauze, this card is like, I couldn't believe that in my first build of this deck, I wasn't playing this card, because as soon as I put it in, it solved so many of the deck's problems. Like, a lot of the times your bad hands, like, it's one of 2 things. You either have, like, all monsters and no traps, no defense, or you have, like, all the traps and no real monsters. You know what I'm saying? This solves both of your problems. Because if you have like no monsters, this becomes your monster. It becomes two really powerful monsters. Actually, round 1 of the tournament, I versed in Zectors, and game 1, this was the only monster that I saw for the entire game, and I still won the game just because of this card. Like, I just beat him down with the Gauze for a few turns, and I had some trap cards behind it. He just couldn't get rid of it. And it was so ridiculous, like, going into game 2, he didn't know what a side deck for me, because he didn't know what I was playing. And yeah, so, also, like, if you do have a lot of monsters and no traps, this also becomes a trap, because a lot of the time, if you're just doing, like, set and armor pass, your opponent's just going to try and go all out, because they want to kill the armor as soon as possible and kill you as soon as possible. And so the fact that you can survive just by, summoning this card, and usually if your hand is all monsters, you have the cards to like break their board on the return anyway. Another little bonus, it really helps you make Big Eye, because this and like a Fortress is just being able to make Big Eye as much as possible is broken. Again, it does come out a lot depending on the matchup, because there's a lot of floodgates that you put in. So for that reason, it sometimes comes out, but I just feel like game 1 is just way too broken not to play. Yeah, and it solves like a lot of the deck's problems. Like I highly suggest you play this card. A lot of people don't even think you're running it in Geargia anyway, and they just run into it. But yeah, this won me a lot of games in the tournament. Spells, 3 MST, Heavy, Dark Hole, Reborn, and Mind Control that I talked about. What I really like about this card, I mean, I don't need to explain it too much because everyone knows you play tuners and stuff, but the amount of like gauzes that I took with this and then overlaid it with my Fortress to make Big Eye is just so broken. Like, because gauze can be a bit of a problem for this deck to deal with. Like, big monsters can be tough. This just makes it you don't need to worry about that stuff. You can take. I versed a couple Chaos Dragon decks and I took the Geargia. That was pretty broken. And the last spell that I played was a Forbidden Lance. This card was also extremely broken. Weirdly, it has a lot of similarities to Gauze. Like, the reason I like it is because it's both an offensive and defensive card. Obviously, it's offensive. You can, like, stuff like Bottomless can really hurt you if you, like, the only thing you have going for you is, like, your arsenal. So this obviously helps you play around Bottomless, Compulse, and Torrential and stuff like that, really popular. But also, it's basically a trap card as well, because if you set this behind an armor, your opponent needs an incredibly powerful monster to get over your armor now. And the fact that, like, it would come up in testing a lot, like, my opponent's so desperate to get rid of my armor that you set this with the armor, they make, like, a Leviathan or something and attack, and then you damage step Lance, get the search from the armor, then on your turn you flip the armor again, get another search, and then by that point you're just so far ahead. Also, you can sometimes have trouble, like, especially if you don't have Fortress access, you can sometimes have trouble getting over big monsters. This obviously helps with that. Thunder King is a real pain in the ass for this deck to deal with, and this obviously helps with getting over that. Yeah, this card's incredibly broken. I actually almost considered playing, like, 2 MST, 2 Lance, but I thought the MSTs were just a bit more, like, maybe just versatile against everything. I don't, like, yeah, just because as much as, like, stuff like Bottomless and stuff hurts the deck, like, Warning also really hurts the deck, so I feel like MST was just better. But yeah, the fact that Lance can be both offensive and defensive, kind of similar to the Gauze, is like, those cards are invaluable in this deck. So yeah, I highly suggest you play this card. Actually, one more reason I like this card is, as I said with getting over the big monsters, like, it allows you to make Gigant and run over a big monster. Because obviously, like, it can be kind of awkward, like, making, say, if you need to get over something big, and you need to make, like, a Gem Knight Pearl or something, it doesn't feel so great. But this allows you to just make Gigant and get over it anyway. So, yeah, it deals with Spirit Reaper as well, which came up a couple times. Yeah. Play this card, it's fucking broken. Traps. Triple Compulse. I mean, it's probably, like, one of, if not the best trap in the format right now. Although, weirdly, in the tournament, it wasn't as good as I thought it was, because, like, I was prepared for, like, a lot of, like, wind-ups. Like, the matchups I was testing the most was stuff like wind-ups and, Heroes and Rabbit and, maybe the Mirror Match. But everything I versed in the tournament was, like, not a good matchup for me. I versed a lot of, like, Dragons and Agents, Insectors, although this card was good against Insectors, but, yeah, also the fact that, like, you can like bounce your own gear frame with this card, which is just insanely broken. Also, game 2 and 3, if you're worried about stuff like knock or system down, like this card helps you play around those cards. Like a lot of the time, game 2 and 3, if you're afraid of knock, you'll have to do that play with like Arsenal and Accelerator and make a first 10 gig in. But this just means you can just set your armor. You can always just bounce it, like, because setting your armor I think is better than going for the Arsenal Accelerator play. But sometimes you have to do the Arsenal play to play around some stuff. But yeah, this just lets you set your armor and you can always bounce it if you need to. It's a very versatile card. Also, it's good going second, obviously. And going second, I mean, I wanted as many cards that are good going second as possible in this deck because going first, your advantage is already so huge anyway. So yeah, this card was broken. And then I played 2 Bottomless, 2 Warning, Judgment, pretty standard, I guess. Then I played a Starlight Road. So, sort of maybe the one card in the deck which can conflict with Gauze, but it just doesn't, like, it's not relevant enough. Being able to just set, like, your armor with, like, 4 back row with this card is, like, way too broken. Also, if you need to protect your Floodgates, game 2 and 3. And then finally, I played 1D Prison. This card was like, I tried, like, when I was in early builds of the deck, I was playing like 3, then it went down to 2, then to 1. I found just in this format, like, a lot of the monsters that you need to deal with them immediately. Like, stuff like Gigant, or like anything made with like Rescue Rabbit, or like Zen Mighty, and any Insecta monster. Like, you need to deal with their summon more. Like, if you wait to go to the battle phase, it's already too late. Like, they've already got the advantage, you know what I mean? But I kept one in, just, it's another card your opponent has to play around. It's really good going second. Yeah, I did want like an extra real trap in there. And the fact that this is good going second was just like, yeah, really important. Yeah, one thing I remembered, no Torrential. I was playing Torrential in earlier builds, but I just didn't like the awkwardness of having to set it behind an armor. I wanted my traps to be relevant, like, basically all the time, and, yeah, Torrential just, it's good for, like, clearing boards and stuff, but, you are playing Veilers, so most of the time you're able to stop them, like, before they get into that game state anyway. And as I said, the Gauze is basically another trap card as well, so I felt like it was fine to cut Torrential. So we go with the extra deck, 3 Gigant. I did find, like, this is maybe a flex spot, but I found, like, I tested so many cards in place of this, and they would come up, but nothing would ever come up as much as the 3rd Gigant. I tried, like, the Notorious Synchros, Utopia Ray because of mind control, stuff like that, like another rank 3, all of that, but, yeah, the cards would come up, but never as much as the 3rd Gigant. I think because I'm playing 3 Gear Frame, 2 Watchdog, so you're making Gigant a lot more aggressively in this deck. And also being able to make Gigant aggressively without, like, having to worry about running out of them. Also definitely makes you feel safer, so yeah. I definitely play 3 in this build. And I played Roach, Utopia, Pearl, Mindstroke, Zenmains, Shockmaster, and finally the big guy. In testing, this card was, like, insanely broken, but because of the matchups I versed, I actually never made it during the tournament, which is strange. But, I mean, I still won anyway, so it didn't matter. But, yeah, I mean, don't need to explain these too much. And then Synchros, on Barredo, on Beret. Actually, I did, over the Gigant, there was a point where I was playing 2 Barredo, but it was just to win more, you know what I mean? Because if you go for the OTK, most of the time you're making, like, you're making this, and then, like, a Scrap Dragon, because it's still game, and also it helps you play through a Gauze if they have it. Or if you're not going for the OTK, but you still have the combo, then you're going for, like, a Stardust to protect your field. Double Barredo can feel good, because you get 2 draws off of it, but I just felt like it was a win more. So, and then Stardust for Side Road, and also I made it just normally a couple times. Black Rose and Scrap Dragon. And finally the side deck. Triple Imps. Obviously, like, Dark Worlds is one of your hardest matchups, so I sided pretty heavily for them. Played 2 Soul Taker. I really wanted cards that were, like, more for going second, because I feel like going first, your deck's so strong anyway, so Soul Taker being a good card going second as well. It's very versatile as well. You can put it in against just, like, basically anything going second. Like, there's so many matchups it's good against. Then I played 3 Rivalry, I mean, pretty standard. And I did play 3 Macrocosmos. I know some people disagree with this because they say it makes like your Fortress a bit worse. But what I found in testing is when I was playing stuff like Shadow Imps over this card, I really wanted something like it made your Chaos Dragon matchup much harder, like without this card in the deck. And the thing with the Fortress, what I found in testing, it's not really relevant enough, because if you think about it, like the cards you're putting this, the decks you're putting this card in for, like Dark Worlds and Inzectors, sure, it might make your Fortress a little bit worse, but they literally can't play if you have this card out. Like, they actually just can't play, so I feel like it's not very relevant. I side out a Fortress and a couple Gear Frames for the Inzector matchup anyway. But the fact that this is good against Chaos Dragons as well was really important, because that can be a bit tough. And yeah, against Dark Worlds, if this is on the field, they can't play, so don't worry too much about like the Fortress being slightly worse. That's just not relevant enough. Yeah, as soon as I put this card in, like over the Shadow Imps that I was playing, it just made a lot more sense. It was much more powerful. So, also another thing I just remembered, the thing with the macros and Fortress is like, you can always just summon the Fortress like before, like if you have Fortress in your opening hand and macro, most of the time I would just like summon the Fortress first and then set this. And you can even bluff a side road that way, by summoning a Fortress next to your monster and setting a couple back road just to make it seem like you're playing around Dark Hole and Heavy Storm with the start road. But yeah, this card is like way too important not to play. I played a Black Horn and a Chaos Trap Hole. Originally this was 2 Black Horns, but some things I found is this, like the fact that this can banish a monster was really important, and the fact that against Chaos Dragons, because I'm playing macro, obviously Lila is a real threat to the deck, and this can stop Lila and banish the Lila, whereas Blackhorn couldn't. Also, I found there were a lot of matchups where when I was playing double Blackhorn, I was only putting 1 in anyway, so it made sense to put in this, which is slightly more powerful against certain matchups. But this is still really good. Like, it's basically another Solemn Warning against a lot of matchups. And yeah, also against Inzectors, this card's really good against Inzectors as well. This card obviously isn't, but yeah, these cards were really good. I even put this in for Heroes, because Thunder King, as I said before, is like a real issue for the deck. So it can feel a bit weird against Heroes because they've only got like the Alias and Thunder King to hit, but I felt like it was too important to not play in that matchup, just to deal with Thunder King. So also, actually, the Soul Takers, like, sometimes if you verse like any deck that has Thunder Kings in it, you might just need to put this in. Like, normally I don't put this card in against, say, Windups. It's not very good. But if you know they're on like a heavy Thunder King build, then you might need to put this card in just to deal with it, because it can be an issue. So yeah, obviously the side deck is going to be like very specific to like your opponent and their build. Some of it you have to sort of figure out on the fly, just depending on how your opponent's playing their deck. It's not always going to be so like cut and paste, like everyone playing the exact same version of, or the exact same builds of a deck. So yeah, and then finally I played a Needle Sailing because I wanted another card that was good going second against Windups. So this with the 2 Veilers and the 3 Rivalries just makes going second in that matchup a lot easier. I ended up putting this in against Chaos Dragons as well, because what I found was with macro, going second against Chaos Dragons can be a bit weird, because if they go first and they open that hand of like charge, recharge, and they fill up their graveyard immediately before you can get your macro going, the macro just becomes pretty irrelevant. Whereas if you have this card and macro, obviously like you can just wait for them to make their board and enter battle phase, or summon a problem card like Dad, and then being able to use this with macro and just clear their entire board is pretty good. But yeah, obviously mainly in there for windups. I did start putting it in for Heroes if I'm going second when the tempo is in their favor, because I feel like they're more likely to OTK me in those matchups. And if you can like clear their board up, like when they try to OTK you, they usually don't have much of a follow-up. But so far that hasn't come up like in testing. Like I've put it in for that matchup, but I've never drawn it yet. And I didn't verse any Heroes in the tournament. It was a very last minute decision
that I decided to start putting this in for heroes. So let me know what you think on that. Yeah, because that one I'm still not sure of, but I mean, it makes sense. And then finally, Trapstun. It's sort of the one card in the extra that is like, I almost always only put it in going first, because going second, I only really like this card if I'm going for the OTK. And because you side out a Watchdog a lot going second, you're doing the OTK a lot less. So this card can be a bit awkward. Also, as I said before, going second, you really need like every card in your hand to usually be able to like break your opponent's board and then establish your own. And this doesn't really do much in that. But going first, it's so broken because, I mean, if you set this with an armor going first, like, you almost win every time because you can just OTK them so easily. So yeah, it was really good. I don't regret playing it. Yeah. So I'll put up a side deck guide on the screen of like a sort of generic guide as to how I was siding throughout the tournament, or how I plan to side at least. But as I said before, like a lot of this is going to be more dependent on like your opponent, like specifically, and their build. A lot of the stuff you have to figure out for yourself, because yeah, there's no sort of like as I said before, with like if you're versing a wind-up deck with a heavy Thunder King engine, maybe you put in a Soul Taker or something, like stuff like that. Or for example, like I have a friend who's a really good Chaos Dragon player, and against him, like I side out Starlight Road against that Chaos Dragon deck because there's only 2 cards in the deck where it hits, which is Heavy and Dark Hole. And most of the time they can pop your Starlight Road with Raikou or Lila, or they have Decree, and Decree is obviously like really good against it. But there was a time in Swiss during the tournament where I versed Chaos Dragons, and no disrespect to my opponent, but like he wasn't the greatest. And so I knew, like, because I knew the matchup pretty well, I figured the only way he'd be able to beat me is if he got like lucky with a Heavy Storm. And so for that reason, I kept Starlight Road in, even though most of the time I don't. So stuff like that, like the side deck guides, you know, you have to take them with a grain of salt, but they're not always going to be perfect. You have to figure some of it out by yourself. But yeah. So yeah, maybe one little tip is like against Dark Worlds, I side one of these out. It doesn't matter if I'm going first or second, because you sort of want your monster count or your normal summon monster count to be decreased, so you can just like set your hand as early as possible to play around drag down. So yeah, obviously the Karakuri tuners, like, they're all normal summons, so I try to cut one of them. So yeah, that's basically it. I hope you guys like the deck profile. I haven't posted one in like almost 10 years, but yeah, the Geargia is one of my favorite decks of all time, so hopefully this can help out any other Geargia players out there. Yeah, I just felt like I put in way too much testing and time into this deck to like not do a deck profile. Just want to help out the Geargia community as much as I can, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, hope you enjoyed, hope it inspired a few, and yeah, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And as you know, kids are pro because I Pro Yu-Gi-Oh! Said so.